everybody, this is the Wikstrand. Every once in a while, one of these movies comes along that, becomes water cooler conversations, especially if it is a movie where, not movie-going people, go and see. And in 1995, there was a lot of fucking awesome movies that came out. I mean, Seven, The Usual Suspects, Braveheart, and so on and so on and so on. Anyway, these were not the type of movie that old people wanted to go and see. They wanted to go and see The Bridges of Madison County, which became a massive box office success. And, gave people an entirely new impression of what Clint Eastwood could do, both as a director and especially as an actor. Now, I didn't see the movie back then. I actually waited until January of 2022 before I actually saw this movie. And back in 95, I was in the mid of my absolute action frenzy. If it wasn't big boobs, big explosions, car flippings and ultraviolence, I said, nah, skipping it. But because I will see everything at some point, I finally saw The Bridges of Madison County. So we're gonna see what I thought about this movie. This is The Bridges of Madison County. Michael Johnson, they're going to bury their mother, Francesca, played by Meryl Streep, who has recently died. Now they're going through her personal belongings and they find, a special, very secret journal that she has kept, which tells them about an affair she had back in the mid-60s. They had no idea that this was happening, and this is very shocking to her. Almost as shocking as, the revelation that she wants to be cremated and thrown off one of the bridges in this part of Iowa where she grew up in. And they're sort of, what's this? And this thing is so shocking to them that, they also start to question their own marriages when they read about the 4 days that they were away with their father and she was left alone. So after this flash front, as opposed to a flashback, we are, taken back in time to the 4 days where Francesca was left alone, 1965. She, intends just to spend these days, cleaning up the house, bake some cakes maybe or stuff like that. But fate wanted something else, because Robert Kincaid, which by the way sounds like every evil villain from the mid-90s I can think of, shows up, played by Clint Eastwood. He is a photographer for National Geographic, and he is there to, shoot pictures of the famous, covered bridges that this part of the country is famous for. So she helps him, find them because he is kind of lost, and then, he asks her out for dinner just, to say thank you, and the longer time they spend together, the more her passion grows, because Francesca was, coming to America from Italy, and all her hopes and dreams may not have, been realized, but her husband, is a good man. He's not using her as a punching bag or something like that, but her life is a little bit boring and a little bit stale, and his bohemian lifestyle and, his personality brings something new into her, and he kind of changes her, and she discovers parts of herself that she formerly didn't know existed. And he, who has always, moved from place to place and has never attached himself to anything, actually gets attached to somebody, her. Now, one of this movie's problems is the Titanic problem. We know that the boat is going to hit the iceberg, and because the fact that her children actually gets told in the beginning of the movie that this was a 4-day fling and it never, amounted to anything. So we know how this story is going to end. So that is a kind of problem this movie has. Also, all the flash front sequences with them is kind of uninteresting, because we don't really care about them as characters. I don't care about your failing marriage. You could have shaved off the majority of those sequences and the movie wouldn't have suffered for it, because this movie is a little bit too long in my opinion. That is another problem that this movie has. Apart from that, this movie is pretty fucking good. Now, as it comes to romantic dramas about old people, you could do a lot worse. In fact, I think this is probably the best movie I've seen in that very particular genre, which is not really my type of a movie. Of course, Meryl Streep could bring life to this character in her sleep, but it is very impressive to see Clint Eastwood put on what I would consider his best performance of all time. This is far removed from the classical Clint Eastwood character we all know and love, who looks at you with stern eyes and have some badass lines and shoot people. And what's best about it is the fact that if this would have been directed by, these knuckleheads who made all of these, Valentine's movie or Christmas Day or New Year's Day and all of those sappy, sugar-coated nonsense of romantic comedies, they would have added so much sugar and so much sappiness to this that I probably wouldn't have been able to take it. And if this movie would have been directed by, let's say, a Steven Spielberg, this movie would have been such a sappy love story with so much sugar-coated stuff to itself that we would have vomited all over the place. So good for you, Clint Eastwood, that you knew when to scale back and allow the very good writing and the fantastic performances tell the story rather than, over dramatic music and overacting. Thank God for that. And the third act of this movie is very, very good and very dramatic, actually. And it would have been even more dramatic if they would not have spoiled the ending for us in the beginning, but hey-ho, what you going to do? It is very sad and it is very emotional, not quite on the level of a Dr. Zhivago, which still contains maybe the saddest sequence of all time, if we do not count the movie Devdas. And I'm talking about the entire movie of Devdas. Jesus Christ, that movie! Anyway, do I recommend this movie? Yes, I do. Fantastic acting, very good writing, very good cinematography, a very simple story, if a little bit excessive with its runtime. But when it comes to Clint Eastwood's movies, this is probably the movie I liked the most, despite having quite low expectations on it. If you like this sort of, romantic dramas and stuff like that, I'm sure you will find some enjoyment out of it. As I said, not my type of movie, but far better than I expected it to be. This is really a two-people movie. Without Clint Eastwood, without Meryl Streep, this movie would have been populated by absolutely nobody. This movie really doesn't have any side characters to talk about except for the children, which I didn't care about. This is really just about Meryl Streep and Clint Eastwood, and they are fucking amazing. I give The Bridges of Madison County 72 points. It is a very good drama, and there are some pacing issues, and the movie, as I said, is a little bit too long for its own good. But the very honest and very well-written conversations between Streep and Eastwood are absolutely masterfully delivered, and it has a lot of these what-if scenarios that I always like in movies. So The Bridges of Madison County is a really, really good movie. So I'll see you next time. Well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.